this is too like advanced. I think we're giving away a lot of secrets here.
You can just cut those parts out.
To know about my super exclusive high-end private oils, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, before we delve into that, I want to say a good morning and a very big welcome to Sidi Hussein, officially known as the Doc. And I tell you, when I say the Doc, I mean the Doc. This guy is the Doc. He is a big collector of Agarwood oil, and he's got all the Oriscent legends in his arsenal. He can wipe out entire communities of collections or people's collections if he just like unleashes like a few of his bottles. It'll be like other people's collections would dwindle in significance. I think it's a formidable feat. What he has is so mashallah, we have to say.
Jazakallah khair Zidi for allowing me to buy them and assisting me
and
teaching me about
Alhamdulillah.
It's really been a blessing actually to own these and to be introduced to them. Like I said in the email last night, you can't really appreciate fully, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's love for perfume without smelling the best perfume.
You can't, and that's what actually that's why I started on this whole mission, is because I see all the brothers, and they whip out these roll-ons when you're ready to start praying, and they just put it on your hand without even asking, and it's like, and it's like, oh my God, like now I can't even recite the Fatiha anymore.
Or you get a headache, right?
yeah, it's like I lost my concentration. I'm thinking like, where is the closest like a dish soap so that I can scrub it off, and that's actually what all my teachers do as by default. Not when God forbid anybody put a roll-on their hands, right? But even like a lower quality oud, immediately straight to the kitchen sink, dish soap, scrub, and it's like when it's perfectly scentless, then they can sit back down again. That's how it is. So without further ado, here we can jump right into it. This is my my most recent Vietnamese batch. It's the kind of thing that I think you would be interested in.
So what kind of notes are going to be in this?
Well, I mean, I can give the notes away, or I can let you try it first, and then see how on the mark your assessment is.
It smells really similar to some of the oud that I have, and I was smelling it last night.
Such as? Here comes the collection, guys. Brace yourselves.
I would have to compare it, but what I was smelling last night was the Oud Royale, the Borneo 3000.
Oud Royale.
Kadi Khalbar. Khalbar 3000.
Right. Those are some really big names, like real heavy hitters, So when you say these kind of names, like, YouTube might experience like that.
But this smells like it's right up there with them.
I mean, yeah, this is actually, if you want to know the real like provenance of this is Vietnam. So actually, this would be above them just by that simple fact. Even though this is not from trees that are as old, by any comparison, or any means, as let's say Oud Royale that you're talking about, or Borneo 3000. Oud Royale and Borneo 3000, the thing about them is that they were distilled according to the Arabian aesthetic. You see what I mean? So they were fermented for a certain degree, for a certain amount of time. Not Borneo 3000. That's actually a mistake. Oud Royale was. Oud Royale was. You're talking about Oud Royale 1 or 2 here?
Number 2.
No, number 2. Then you're talking. We're in the same league as this. Then it's Japanese aesthetics. If it was Oud Royale 1, that would be the traditional boiling of fermented wood, which is like the Indian, Arabian kind of system.
Yeah,
know?
so I never smelled Oud Royale #1, unfortunately.
Never?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta visit CD Yusuf. Yeah, he has a bottle of that.
Really?
You gotta just tell him he loves making coffee, right? Just say, I heard you make great coffee. I want to taste the
I
cup
had no idea.
from your hand. I've
I've been there for coffee like 3 or 4 times.
You gotta tell him
I
to
didn't
whip
know
out
he
the
had
Oud Royale. You went there for coffee. I mean, you're wasting your time. You all these opportunities of lost swipes of Oud Royale. He and mashallah, he is very generous. Every time you visit him, and that's the rule. That's what I've learned from my teachers, is that when you're a guest here, and there's no cap. As many swipes as you want. You can eat as much kinam as you can. If you can down 1 gram of kinam, be my guest. Actually, that's what I mean. Look at how poor edeb. I mean, I didn't even offer you the first thing that I should have, which is to have a taste of Vietnamese kiara. It's like the first thing.
Is this what you gave me yesterday also?
I gave you this yesterday.
Yeah,
That's
that
right.
was actually the first time that I had ever tried it.
No, you had
Tasted
really.
it. Yeah, it was. I put it under my tongue when I was with you, and I didn't. It got a little bit numb. And then when I went home, and I was smelling, these ouds last night, I started to chew it, gently, and it was just fantastic. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yesterday you came here. You're like, I want to sell my collection. Please help me sell it. How do I sell it? You ate your kinam, and then it's like, no, wait a minute. I need more oils. I want to smell your other oils that I have never smelled before. My collection is too small.
No, really. I've always been attracted to the more expensive oils and the best oils, right? So in the past, I bought a lot of cheaper ouds from you, just kind of with this business bent, business mindset that they might be easier to sell, right?
That you can make a profit on them once they become legends. You can just turn around. Now, people do this as maybe people make this as a business model. Some people have launched entire communities based on just reselling my old oils. Literally. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's not an exaggeration. Guys, I have an Oriscent stash. I've got a few bottles of Borneo 3000, KR Ltd, Oud Royale. 0.1 gram goes for like $180. No kidding. No kidding.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you were saying?
So I had a couple of tangents in my mind, but one thing that you mentioned about Oud Royale, right?
Right.
So it was made in a different way, with a different aesthetic. So did it actually smell different? And did you name them because of where it was from?
Number one?
Yeah. Compared to #1 and #2, and the other Oud Royale, like Oud Royale 1985, and
Oud Royale number 1 was not named by me. That was named by the Sheikh. He had this idea that, it should be called Oud Royale. He called me, he said, I got a name for your oil. Because it wasn't my distillation. You know the provenance of that oil, right? So he said, let's call it Oud Royale. Then the second day, he called me back. He said, I have another idea. I think we should, the Borneo oil that you gave me. Because I went to Indonesia to get him this oil. He said, we should call it Borneo 3000. So he named both of them.
He came up with that.
He came up with the name.
I really would not have expected that.
No, that's yeah. He named it. Because I was thinking like Borneo, fantastic. The Borneo, majestic. I forget what I was thinking back then, right? He said, no, that's not the right name. He called me back. He said, let's call it Borneo 3000. Yeah. So I mean, that's like, But your question was, why did I name it Oud Royale the second time?
Right.
Because to me, it was the caliber was the same, like this the Filipino oil, and we have like this almost like this cliffhanger that we're gonna let people just ruminate for a while. There is a Filipino like entity. We're not gonna say if it's wood or oil or maybe it's a Filipino like a babysitter also. It's possible. But there is a Filipino dimension to this meeting, and the doc, he has number 2. He's got Oud Royale number 2 in his collection. And so to get back to my question, when I eat the Kinam, I can go off in 1,000 different tangents, and I forget what I was talking about, and it's just like this, a cloud of green lidocaine is in my brain. You know, it's like I can't. Yeah, this, unfortunately, this the top of this was. This is one of the old crystal bottles, so I'll if I can pull this out without spilling it. That's going to be quite a task there. So yeah, this is the old Oriscent bottle. You can see the label at the bottom there. Can you see that? Yeah. So Oud Royale, and unfortunately, you know, when Sidna was traveling, he put this in his check-in luggage, and I think the guys were not very merciful when they were transporting it. So,
A little different spot.
They didn't have any mercy. I mean, they just brought these. One time I put my Remova luggage, like I paid like $1,500 for one suitcase. It came out without a wheel. I was like, these guys are animals, you know? But that, now see, the reason I named it Oud Royale, I'll tell you now. That black syrupy, majestic incense note, like this pitch black, but it's so regal, so, it's like so royal. You know, it's like just like Oud Royale 1, except that this is a totally different jungle. That was from Morocco, Oud Royale number 1, you know, on the island of Papua. This is like way south of that. It's actually way north of that, south of the Philippines. So it's in the middle of the Philippine Ocean there. I don't know what the name of the ocean is, but it's like almost halfway. It's closer to the Philippines than Papua, right? But it's this tiny island, you know, belongs to the Philippines. The Filipino oils that are hitting the market now are nothing like this. They're from Tawi-Tawi, which is actually part of Borneo. If you look at the map, it's like just a few kilometers off the coast of Borneo. The Philippines is way north. Like if you look at it, you say, look, this is just like a geopolitical trick.
Right.
Because I mean, politically, it belongs to the Philippines, but it's like right next to Borneo. So the profile is going to be more, I'll tell you what it's going to be more like. It's going to be more like this. The Tawi oils, it's something like that.
So what is this?
This is my new Borneo distillation. I call this Borneo Diesel. You smell like those, like blackberries, you know, blueberries.
Yeah.
With this, blueberries laced with this narcotic mint.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's amazing.
It's really something. I mean, this is what we're working on. At this time, this was late 2016 project that we did. There's several hundred kilograms of the finest Borneo materials distilled like this. And I mean, if I said Tawi, if I said Philippines, people wouldn't be able to tell the difference, right? But I mean, literally, it comes from Borneo Island, you know. Now you go to your Oud Royale 2, and they're almost identical.
Yeah, you can smell.
This one is just slightly more buttery, I think.
Yeah.
Oud Royale 2, I find, has this more like this, like a butter. It's more aged, obviously. This is from like 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Born Oud Royale 2, is it? 2007, right? Yeah.
You know, when you smell different oils, you can start appreciating them in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, you can notice differences, or you can notice things about the smell that you didn't before.
Contrast smelling. If you smell by contrast, the easiest way to understand the quality of an oil is just put something from the same region on your other hand, and go back and forth. And then what they will do is they will totally strip each other naked.
Right.
It's like they will be fully exposed. There's no you can see them. Whereas if you smell only one, you can be fooled. You can be fooled by the auxiliary notes, by the soaking technique, by the temperature curvatures during distillation. People can manipulate the distillation in many ways, right? But what strips all of those to the side and lets you look at like the intrinsic nature of that resin is if you contrast smell and you go back and forth, you have a full understanding of the oil.
So what was the second one that you swiped?
The
first one that you swiped?
The first one was Vietnam.
Vietnam.
My latest Vietnamese batch, that's from 2017.
Which has kind of a fruity smell now.
Yeah.
I didn't really see
Krasna.
before.
Krasna is the same trees as Thailand, but obviously this is a different soil. So the Vietnamese soil, this is where Kiara is born, right? So it has that more of a astringent, medicinal, bitter component compared to the Thai, which is more like it can be more like overtly fruity.
So Kiara and Kinam, are these related terms or?
The Kiara and Kinam is just it's like synonymous, but the difference is Japanese to Chinese. Kiara is the Japanese word for it. Chinam is the Chinese word for it. So Kinam is actually Chinam.
Okay. So the oil I'm most excited to smell would be the two I emailed you about, the Kiara LTD 2.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? The other one that's up there, right with it.
Not trying LTD.
Yeah.
Correct. Now the thing with Kiara LTD 2 is that I don't have that here because that is buried in a vault that is protected by these protective angels. Mashallah. And actually, I forgot to bring it. But I have the one that I keep for my personal reference here, and which I treat all guests to. It's the same oil, it's just 1 year, it's senior. So it was distilled 1 year prior to that.
So this is not up on the website right now?
This is not on the website, but it's the same.
It's the same thing.
It's the same, exact same thing. It's just 1 year older. It was distilled, before it by 1 year.
Can you tell the difference with that 1 year?
I mean, you can, but it's like it's marginal. It's like something that you'd be like, okay, it's not really like to be splitting hairs. Like, okay, slightly more like this, slightly more bitter. It's not something that it's not normally done. Like the seafoods. When they have the same batch and it's the same protocol, the same material, the same technique, the same everything. It's just the same oil, really. We don't discriminate. I know the online market is different. No, this is 2011. This is 2012. It should be a different name. It should be a different this. The masters don't do that. It's the same batch, the same thing.
So when you say it's the same batch, but it's a year older, that means it's the same wood?
The same harvest,
okay.
The same proportions of like Vietnamese to Hainanese to Kiara shavings from Cambodia and Kinam skins from Hainan. Only it was put together, in 2011, as an example.
Right.
The other one was done in 2012.
Okay.
So it's just, it's more aged, that's the only thing.
Yeah, that's another term that I was wondering about, Kinam skins. What are Kinam skins?
Kinam skins are, the bark of the tree.
Okay.
Like you have this thin layer of skin that you can just peel off. Now the Kinam trees, that the Kinam is actually harvested from, even the skin, if you put that on a heater, will give you Kiara, The Kiara note is
and that's without the infection. It's not.
The trees. Those trees. It won't be a Kiara tree if it doesn't have any infection. So Kiara is a phenomenon that occurs in the tree. Okay, after it's already been infected. The starting point is that the same trees may or may not bear Kiara. It's the same species. It can be cross-nut, right? Some people argue that it only happens in sinensis trees. I beg to differ. Like Aquilaria crossnut definitely can yield Kiara, right? And I think most of the trees in Vietnam that have Kiara, historically, were probably crossnuts. The Hainanese sinensis trees also very famous for Kiara.
So when you say it has Kiara, there's like there's some Chiara in it. It's
I mean, it has this stuff. This
starts off with the infection and then it becomes Chiara. But
Yeah.
it's like,
It's just the infection takes, rather than turn into hardened resin, and I'll show you this in a second. Okay, this is my Chiara stash, so you can take a whiff of that.
wow.
So now this, I want you to take a look at that resin, right? This is Vietnamese Agarwood that did not turn to Chiara. It turned, the resin formation took this turn and it became this thick, crystallized, hardened resin. You can see it.
Yeah.
That wood, in the market now, can sell for like 200,000 a kilogram. Vietnamese wood of that caliber. I mean, 200,000 people wouldn't sell it. People wouldn't sell it. They would actually sell it now. If you go to China and Taiwan and Japan and these places, you're looking at 400,000 to 500,000 a kilo.
And they're using this for bangles?
No, they
They burn?
They use it for bangles. They use it for bangles, but the real connoisseurs, the people that like you and I, they would never do that. They would just shave, tiny pieces and just put it on this and enjoy it like that. They wouldn't make bangles out of it. The bangles is the people, people that just want to show off.
Yeah, that was another question I had. So the bangles are being made out of what exactly?
Well, if they have enough of that to make a bangle,
Right.
some people would be crazy enough to do that. And then they'll take the shavings, and it'll end up into this. This is like bangle shavings that are left over.
Oh.
Now that, just because of its being Chiara, you can take a look. I'm not going to take it out just because it's just too, I don't want I don't want to lose any aroma from it. Yeah, So I will keep that. I'll show you another one. So this is actually not from bangle. This is actually also from bangles, it seems. Yeah, you can tell.
This is like a secondary market. They make the bangles and then they sell this.
Then they sell that. But that sells for Kinam prices. I mean, this goes for for a lot of money.
So you were saying that this didn't turn into Chiara.
No, that's Sri Lankan. This one. Yeah.
So if it had turned into Chiara, what would it look like?
So if it turned into Chiara, it would look more soft. It would look like this. This is Vietnamese Chiara right there. You see, look at the veins on it. You see the strands of how it's like. It's softwood. It's softwood. If it turned into Chiara, it would retain that softness, that butteriness. When you cut through it with a scalpel, it feels like you're cutting through like dark chocolate, for example. When you cut through that, it's like you're cutting through almost like glass or something.
Very hard.
Yeah, very hard, very hard. That will give you a hard time. We'll try it now. That'll give you a hard time on a Chiara heater, this one. But still, you should get something from it. So there goes my shavings of that. You can smell it. This is the Chiara here.
Now, it's been a really long time since I smelled Caracutan, and I think that's what I have. Yeah, I have, I think, a few bottles, if that's the right one that I'm thinking of. But this, what I remember is Caracutan smelled kind of like this, but it was really smoky. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Caracutan was from Myanmar, on the border of China, right? I think the curvature, when we made the distillation, it was a slightly higher temp than this. So this is very much more controlled temperature, like it's an even, no curve gains. Like some artisans, what they'll do is They'll crank up the temperature, then bring it down again. Then they'll crank it up again, then bring it down again. And this creates this complexity in the oil, because you have some oil trickling out when the temperature is low, and some oil is trickling out when the temperature is high. So it almost is like you're getting a perfume inside the pot. It's like you're mixing the molecules when they're in the receptacle, in the glass Pyrex, right, where they come out, right? You're getting fractions that come out at low temperature, and you got fractions coming out at high temperature.
So it's almost like mixing two oils.
It's like mixing two oils. Standard practice, and this is some of the more recognized people doing this. That's the secret. It's just like high, low, high, low. This is one temperature, and the curvature is there, but I won't disclose how it happens. But there is it's very different to that.
So when you say curvature, what does that mean?
Like there is a variation in temperature.
Okay.
But it's not. You can't call any of it high because the temperature is so low. And now here I'm giving it away here. That you can't really call that a curvature. It's just like that's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
So you do that in order to. So if you didn't do that, for example, if you just kept one temperature, how would it smell different compared to having the the temperature variations?
Well, if you have one temperature, you have one smell.
Okay.
Right. So the wood is only subjected to one temperature, and it's coming out at the same rate. It's not like the extraction accelerates when you crank up the temperature. The oil will come out faster, and it'll be subjected to this heat. That means it'll have a more toasted smell. Okay. So you're remarking on this slightly smokier component in the Kiara Kutan. This is exactly that. It was a slightly higher temp extraction. Now this is a very low temp extraction, and you can see the trueness to the Kiara profile is immaculate. That's the difference.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so wonderful. You know, the smokiness for me kind of covers up what I want to smell. Yeah. Unfortunately,
like the default in Agarwood, and this is the difference between all Oud and Oriscent Oud, including Ensar Oud, let's say the Sultan Series. The difference is that the Oriscent oil is extracted at such a gentle temperature because the wood is such high quality, and it is not soaked, and it is not altered, and nothing happens to it. It's like you take the Kodo wood, you take this, for example, or the shavings of this, right? And all you want to do is you want to take that as it is and then just capture it in a bottle. So what we do when we're making perfume inside the pot, this is a whole other craft, right? Like the Sultan Series, for example. We want to alter the resin so that it gives us many different notes, and this is how you get a bottle of perfume inside the pot. It's right. Like you're actually making perfume via distillation, if you look at it that way, because there are many components you can tweak. It's like half the batch, for example. Imagine this: half the batch can be cooked in copper. The other half can be cooked in steel. Sometimes we'll put these batches together, and that'll bring even more complexity to the smell. Right, and this complexity you're talking about, it seems to me that you can't get that in a perfume that's made in the normal way, mixing up different scents. Like they don't seem to combine as They don't tightly. Combine because this is the same source material. Yeah. Now if I took vetiver, for example, only vetiver, and I've got two different types of pots, one is steel, one is copper, and I treat one vetiver. Imagine if somebody did that to vetiver, right? I soak one vetiver and I don't soak the other one, and then I do different tweaks to each single batch, and then I blend them in the end. It's like I'm gonna have stupendous vetiver because it's gonna be so complex, but within the same botanical. I mean the aroma chemicals are the same. No matter how I subject them to temperature curvatures, or soaking, or the water minerals, whatever I do, it's going to be the same aroma components, the same aromatic compounds that are coming out. Only this one is going to have this tinge of lactic bacteria, if I was to ferment it, for example. The other one doesn't have the lactic bacteria. When you put the two together, it's like putting fresh cabbage and sauerkraut. You're going to have something that's more similar, than putting, let's say, sauerkraut with tomatoes, which is what you get when you put like a jasmine and sandalwood.
Right.
They're not going to marry the same way as the same aroma chemicals from the same source material will if you tweak it. This is too like advanced. I think we're giving away a lot of secrets here.
You can just cut those parts out.
No, I mean I don't know. I think if we charge like a admission fee or like a watching fee, what do you call it, like subscription or something,
Right.
it'd be better. No, we won't. I'm only kidding. So anyway, let me show you some more oils. Now I want to show you this.